This past weekend, my local vintage stock game stores were having a buy two get one free on all video games. So you knew I had to make my way there and find some games that were worth picking up because honestly, there was a ton of awesome stuff that I saw and I actually ended up getting a really good deal on all of this. So let's go ahead and head into this first one and see what I ended up getting. I heard about this about a week ago and I thought, hey, I need to check this out because there's some good deals. And honestly, this is usually the only time I end up buying from vintage stock just because their prices are so all over the place. But enough about that. I made my way into the store all the way back to where the games are. First thing I did was check out the section here, which was like DS and 3DS games, but I'm not a big fan of those cartridge cases like that. And then I made my way to their measly GameCube selection here. They did have Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3, which is not bad, but it was pretty damaged. I checked out the Wii section here and there, and then I made my way down to the Wii U section. But honestly, nothing so far was hopping out at me. I also walked by the Switch section, which was kind of small. It used to be much bigger. And I headed towards the glass case, which is where they have a lot of their, what I would say, more expensive games. Not necessarily rare games, but more expensive games. And I looked around at this case for a little bit. And down at the bottom, they did have a bunch of cartridges, but nothing here was worth picking up. And again, a little too overpriced. And then I ended up spotting the Simpsons Hit and Run on the GameCube for 75 bucks, which isn't bad considering it is complete in the box. And then at the top, they had a few games, and that's where I ended up finding Wii Sports Club for the Wii U for 70 bucks, which is kind of a lot of money, but those two games caught my eye, so I had to find something else that was kind of around the same price to make all of this worth it, because these deals are buy two, get one free, and the cheapest one is the free. So since I was already spending 70 bucks at least on each game, I wanted to find something that was worth about that, because that is where these deals can really come in handy. You gotta spend a bunch of money, but you end up saving a lot of money as well. So I looked and wandered through. I even found this, quote, new copy of Minecraft for the PS4, but some reason it had been opened. I don't think they understand what new means. And then I saw this Oddworld Soulstorm, which did catch my eye, but it was a little too cheap and not something I had to have. So I made my way towards this glass case here at the end, which is where all their expensive games were. Now this looked to be a little bit picked over, but then I ended up finding Suikoden for the PlayStation 1. They had 80 bucks for this on the PS1, which is a little expensive. I'll be honest with you. We'll talk about all the prices at the very end of this video. We'll look everything up and see if this was worth it. But I did end up finding the third game that was around the same price, so I ended up checking out, and honestly, I did pretty well considering I only found 3 games. Now, this one doesn't really often have too many like bangers or crazy things in it, so I kind of wanted to go to this one first, and then the next vintage stock we go to should have more stuff. But overall, I ended up paying $145 for these 3 games, plus tax, which made it $158. Now, when I looked it up, I ended up grabbing 3 of the most expensive games I could find that I was interested in and I didn't have in my collection. First off, you saw Wii Sports Club for the Wii U. This game was $70. This game has gotten expensive because it is kind of a rare game on the Wii U. And then we've got the Simpsons Hit and Run. You know about this game. It's absolutely amazing. For 75 bucks is not bad. And then last but not least is Suikoden. I'm always going to say that wrong. Forgive me, please. For $80 complete. All 3 of these games were complete, which did make this worth it. Now, I'm going to save the price of all these games at the end. We'll go through all of these and see if this was worth it. But so far, only spending $158 with tax for these 3 games, I think was definitely well worth it. But we've got one more vintage stock in my area that I think should have some good stuff. So I headed into the other vintage stock on my search for more buy two, get one free games. And honestly, this store tends to have better stuff. So I first went right to the wall of games and kind of started checking it out to see if there was anything. There were actually a lot of people here that were buying games, so I ended up getting lucky here. First off, there was a ton of .hack games from $60 all the way up to the really super expensive one, which I think was like $200 or more, which is absolutely crazy. First off, I don't know why this vintage stock puts these expensive games on the wall, but it makes them completely ridiculously hard to get out and look at when they're on these little wire shelves. And I guess that's probably good to help people from stealing, but I saw this as well in a plastic case, and then more plastic cases. Usually when I see the plastic cases, that means the games are more expensive and more sought after, and these are definitely some of the better games that were on this wall for the PlayStation 2. But then I kind of kept walking and made my way to the back where I checked out the Xbox 360, the Xbox original, and then above the Wii section was actually a bunch of GameCube games here. There was some amazing stuff. We're talking Super Smash Brothers here. We're talking Luigi's Mansion. We're talking Pikmin 2, Metroid Prime, Metroid Prime 2 Echoes. There was The Legend of Zelda, the special edition, even F-Zero GX. There was a ton of awesome games here, and I know it's hard to see. This is way off the ground. There was even Paper Mario Thousand Year Door. There was some crazy games here that were definitely well worth picking up, but I didn't want to pick up all of them. Honestly, a lot of these games they had were way overpriced. We'll talk about what I ended up grabbing in a minute. Then I headed over to the glass case where I checked out their Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games, as well as their other cartridge-based games, which I saw something in here that I ended up grabbing here. Let's see if you can guess what it was. It's on the second shelf. Comment down below if you know already. I ended up getting .hack Outbreak. Then I got Fatal Frame 3, which is insane. F-Zero GX. I ended up getting Metroid Prime 2 Echoes and Luigi's Mansion here, as well as when I went to buy the games, I ended up getting Breath of Fire 2 for the Super Nintendo back there on the glass case. And honestly, I ended up getting some good things, and I am really thankful that I went to this vintage stock because it was absolutely insane. Starting from the cheapest game, which is kind of crazy to say, .hack Outbreak Part 3. Now, I wanted to get a .hack game, especially because they had so many, but I didn't want to buy all the expensive ones. I have one or two of them, but I don't have Outbreak, so picking this up for 60 bucks is not a bad deal there. And then again, for 60 bucks, I got Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, which was complete. All of these games are complete except for Breath of Fire 2. And so for 60 bucks, I ended up grabbing that. And then again, Luigi's Mansion for 70 bucks is a little crazy, but with this deal, it makes it well worth it. As well as I ended up getting Fatal Frame 3, which I cannot wait to play this game. This game looks absolutely amazing. It's in really good condition. It's complete as well. And last but not least, I ended up getting F-Zero GX for 90 bucks, which is crazy. But out of the disc-based games, that's all that I got. And the last game ended up being Breath of Fire 2 for 80 bucks. All of these were a total of $325 with tax. If it didn't have tax, it was $299. But overall, these are some crazy games, and we picked up some crazy games already. So let's go ahead and see how much these games are actually worth, because I spent a lot of money on them. So I've got my computer up here, so let's start with the first vintage stock, where I ended up spending $158. Let's see if these were worth the money. First off, Wii Sports Club. So you can see here, it is worth a total of $64. I ended up paying 70 bucks for it, but that's okay. We'll talk about that in just a minute. So I said $64. Go ahead and look up The Simpsons Hit and Run for the GameCube. So we'll make sure we select that. Player's choice is $70. And again, $5 more at $75. So, so far, you can kind of see a trend here. Oops, 70. Last but not least, we've got Suikoden for 80 bucks. Go ahead and pull it up. And all of these games are complete, which definitely helps with the price. And then if we look that up, it's only worth $57, which is not a good thing. Let's put 58 because it was 50. I spent $158 for all three of these. And if we total it up, $192 worth of value. So effectively, I ended up saving about 40 bucks, probably closer to 35. I did have to spend up a little bit to save that, so it is what it is. Basically, I got each one of these games for like 10 or 15 bucks off. We gotta see if this one was worth it, because this is where the big money ended up being, because I spent $325. Now, tax does add into it as well. So this would have been $300 without tax, but with tax it was $325. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Breath of Fire 2 here. On the Super Nintendo, I ended up paying $80 for this, but loose, this is worth $75. So again, most of these prices are a little bit overpriced. And again, we've got .hack Outbreak complete, $55. So we'll go ahead and add that in. I ended up paying 60 bucks for it. Then we've got Metroid Prime 2 Echoes, which on the GameCube is actually $10 less than what I paid. So 60 bucks, it's actually worth 50 instead of 60 is, but here's where it starts to get crazy. Luigi's Mansion on the GameCube is actually worth a lot more than you would think. 60 bucks. Again, $10 more. It is what it is, but you'll understand why. I'm okay with it towards the end. F-Zero GX, which is complete. And again, I ended up paying 10 bucks over for that one as well. This is where we make up for some good stuff. This is Fatal Frame 3, The Tormented, and this is complete. It's got the manual. So let's go ahead and look this one up. And you might be a little shocked at something. That they made a grave mistake. They marked this at basically the loose copy price instead of the complete copy price. Vintage Stock is a place you can also get deals. Sometimes they just price on the loose and you'll find it complete. You're gonna go ahead and add 105. I ended up paying $325 with tax. And if we total everything up, $425. So I basically ended up getting Fatal Frame 3 for free because these games paid for it. Now, obviously, if you look at it, a lot of these games are overpriced, which is why I wouldn't do this normally. But when they do these buy two, get one free deals, I end up saving my money and then spending them on some expensive games that I would love to have in my collection that I don't already. So if you've got the money, or if you can be patient and save up the money, wait until these game stores have these buy two, get one frees, and you can save a ton of money if you spend a decent amount. Obviously, there were people that were spending way more than me, but I thought that this was well worth picking up, and I'm really glad that I did. But what do you think? Would you spend basically $450 to get about $600 worth of games? To me, it's definitely worth it. These are games I don't already have, and these are some banger games as well. So I'm super glad, but I want to know what you think. Comment down below and let me know. But enough about that. I'm going to get out of here, so check that video out if you haven't already. But overall, I ended up getting some crazy games, and I am definitely glad I was able to spend the money and get some of these. I'm so stoked for Fatal Frame. So I'm getting out of here. So if you haven't already, check that video out if you haven't already.